Coronavirus.
Coronavirus. We study viruses that hurt people. As scientists, we study them because in a lot of ways, we are really the first line of defense against the viruses. And the research that we that we do and the answers that come out of our research that helps doctors help people. And so it starts off with our research, and then we pass the answers that we get to the doctors that then treat patients for human health. So right now, the big one that people talk a lot about is the coronavirus. And another one that is also a big problem is human papillomavirus. Now, I also study something called endocytosis. What that means is, if we break down this word in its two parts, endo means within, inner, absorbing, or containing, and cytosis refers to cells. And so taken together, I study how HPV gets into the cells that it infects. And kind of like this thing over here, does anyone know what that is?
Yes, Pac-Man.
Pac-Man. Cool. Pac-Man, you can imagine to be the cell, and it's eating up this HPV particle that's coming in to it. And I want to know what this is, how this hack actually works, because no one knows how it works yet. So why do we care about HPV? That's HPV, little cartoon. HPV causes cancer. Does anyone know what cancer is?
It's a cell that grows in your body and keeps growing.
That's exactly right. And HPV can make cells start that process of growing and growing and growing. So it's very bad. And it does that in the context of cancer. It also causes something called warts, which is, it's not as bad, it's more controllable, but it's also a growth of cells. So if you get infected with HPV, then some of your cells might grow like this uncontrollably, and it could lead to cancer or it could lead to warts. So it's very important that we study this as scientists, so we could have discoveries that lead to treatments, so we can help people. Because a lot of people throughout the entire world, they need us. They need us to help them deal with this cancer that they have. My goal is to find a way to block HPV from entering the cells that it infects. And so much like a house has a front door, maybe a back door, side door, windows. An intruder, like HPV, we don't know how it gets in. We don't know if it uses the front door, if it uses the side windows, the side door, we don't know. And so whatever way it is, we want to find that out so we could block it. If we know which way it gets in, then we could perhaps block it. So how do I do this? Well, I study a human disease and I study a virus that causes it, right? So I need a virus and I need human cells that get infected with the virus, right? So human cells, they're normally on your body, right? How do I grow them in the laboratory? What do they need to grow? Does anyone know? How do you grow human cells?
No idea.
Yeah, Ashley, you can go ahead.
By not eating healthy and not working out and not taking care of yourself.
Eating healthy, yeah? When you eat healthy, you're providing your body with vitamins and nutrients, right? And when you're taking care of yourself, you're staying clean. You're not letting yourself get sick, right? You're completely right with these answers. We add, this is a list of amino acids. Amino acids, you can imagine like they're Legos. When you put Legos together to build something, it's a protein. And your cells, they need proteins to grow. That's why you need protein, right? You need protein, you have to eat it to grow. Same thing, these are human cells, so those cells need protein too. So you feed them these building blocks of proteins called amino acids. You give them vitamins, just like you give yourself vitamins. And you have these salts and minerals that you also have to take into you so you could live. But we don't feed them, spinach and cheeseburgers. We feed ourselves media. This is a liquid that in the liquid, it has all these components. It's floating around in this liquid. So the cells don't need to actually chew. They don't need to digest, but they have directly the nutrients exposed to them at all times, basically. Otherwise, they won't live. So as you mentioned before, the cells also need to be protected, right? How we protect our cells is by keeping them clean, keeping them warm, and keeping them in a humid environment. Just like you, right? When you take your temperature, you're like 96 to 98 degrees inside your body. You're warm in there, And also it's a moist environment so that different things can move around in your body. Cells have the same experience in the laboratory. So they grow in these plastic surfaces. All these things are kept clean. When we talk about clean, what do we mean exactly? What does clean mean? Does anyone know?
Not dirtying them. Well, they dirty them, but they like clean them too. So if the virus or something, because they don't want the dirtiness to come in the virus or something, that they will test out in those tubes.
It's true. So if something's dirty in this sense, just like in your body, how I described before, you have bacteria that can be outside of you, but your immune system protects you from that bacteria from actually coming in, or the virus from coming in. That's kind of what we mean when we say clean. If it's clean, then the bacteria is outside and the cells are safe inside. They don't have any bacteria, they don't have any viruses in them. And so in these types of little plastics, I can keep my cells away from viruses and away from bacteria, so I keep them clean. And to keep them warm and humid, I put them in this kind of box that stays warm and stays humid, perfectly like a person's body, so that the cells can live. I'm going to show you where my cells live right now. I'm going to go get them from that type of box, and I'll be right back, and I'm going to show you them.
Ashley, if you have a question, you can ask it when he gets back. I saw you raising your hand.
I seen one of those little boxes. They look like the little fridge that teachers use in their class.
Yeah.
This is a mini fridge heater.
Yeah, it's like a mini fridge except with heat and moisture to keep all the
And
cells
also,
healthy.
and also I'm watching the YouTube live right now.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
So you can
Subscribe
see
to the
stuff?
channel, guys.
Yeah, I was struggling. I couldn't get it on the Facebook, and then I couldn't even get it on our normal YouTube channel. So it's on my own personal email channel.
Ah,
Sorry, y'all.
so,
Do you
so
want to
as I
stop
said,
sharing so we can
what's
see
that?
each
Oh,
other?
yeah, sure. Let me see, stop sharing. Okay, can you see me better now, bigger? So, as I mentioned before, there's bacteria that lives on my hand. So I have to put on gloves, right? These gloves are nice and clean, no bacteria, no viruses on them. And I use them to handle one of these plastic culture dishes where I can grow my cells. And so inside, this is the liquid that was in that bottle. This liquid has all those vitamins and nutrients that the cells need to grow. But guess what? You can't even see anything down there, huh? Much like you can't see the cells with your own eye on your body, these cells are so tiny that you need a microscope to see them, right? So luckily we have a microscope right here so I can show you what they look like. Make sure it's in focus. And so microscopic cells, you see them there? Some of them kind of look like little eggs. And that's kind of funny because an egg is actually a cell too. But like up there, you see there's like a circle part and then something around it, and there's another one there. All of these are cells. And these are actually the type of cell that your skin is made out of. And so much like your skin is attached to your body, these cells attach to the plastic. They don't just float around. Now, if there were blood cells, like the cells that float around in your blood cells, they don't attach, right? They stay floating around because they need to. But skin, your skin can't just float around, so it has to stick to something. So I use this plastic to stick it. Now, these particular cells, I've engineered them to express a green fluorescent protein. Why is that? Because that's a tool that we use in science. Sometimes we take something that we're interested in, that we want to study, and we put a little fluorescently colored flag attached to it. So wherever we see that fluorescent flag, then we could see wherever the thing is. And so much like your body has bones, your cells have bones too. And if I turn on the light that allows me to see these bones, then you can see that there's a lot of green. You see there's some green stuff on these cells too. Whoa. And now you're also probably thinking, it's kind of blurry. You know, I can't really see it too well. That's because this type of microscope, while it's really nice to just, you know, you get an idea of where your cells are, how many there are, if they're expressing something green, if they're not, maybe they're red. No, there's nothing in the red. Maybe they're blue. No, there's nothing blue. So you kind of get this like basic information from this microscope. Now, if I want to study something like a virus, just like Pac-Man was eating the little tiny thing, viruses are way smaller than this. I could never see a virus like this. So I need something stronger, something more powerful, something more special that allows me to see something that small. And so, in order to see a virus, these things are so small that they don't even interact with light. Just like these cells, I have to shine a bright light on them just so you could see them. Viruses are even too small for that. So if I want to be able to see my HPV particle, I need to attach something that I could see it with. And so in this case, I've attached a red flag, a red protein. And that redness is what I see. Not the virus itself, but the red that comes from something that's attached to the virus. And I could use that to see where the virus is on the cell itself. And that microscope that I need to see something that small, it's this one here. It's bigger, it's more powerful, and it allows me to see something so small as my virus in the detail that I need to see it at on my cell. And when I do this, you can kind of see the cells here. It's a little blurry, but you'll see them start to move around. And in red, the red stuff, that's the virus. And so when I press play, you could see how the virus moves throughout the cell. And this is called infection. This is the infection of these cells by HPV. And I do this in order to study what exactly these red dots are. What is inside? What are they inside in the cell? What is that compartment? And if I know what that compartment is, then I could know, is it the front door of a house? Is it the window of a house? Answers like that. And the cool thing is, when you're a scientist, you get to use really awesome technology, right? So not only do I get to take pictures with that huge microscope that I showed you a picture of, but I can then make this big, beautiful video of my cells where I could see inside the cell throughout it. I could go into the cell and see exactly where the HPV particle is. You could zoom in on one individual cell, And using things like this red colored flag, I might use a green colored flag next time to see something else, to see maybe there's another protein that I think is right next to HPV. And if they are right next to each other, then I'm even closer to my answer of where exactly HPV is. And so I do things like that in my research to find out how HPV is actually entering the cells that it infects. And so back to that original question, what does it mean to be a scientist? Well, it means being curious, leading humanity in the research, solving problems like HPV infection, asking questions, designing experiments. This is an experiment I designed. Exploring, wondering, using cool technology, experiencing the unknown, failure, but also success. Not every experiment works, but when it does work, oh boy, is it the best. Adding to humanity, as Dr. Cass said at the beginning of this is the unknown that we're discovering, which means we get to add this to the knowledge of humans. Leading the world in this information. Testing things, adventuring. It's a way to explain the world around you. You think creatively. You use your brain, which is the best. You get to learn new things. You seek knowledge. And most importantly, being a scientist means having fun. I've loved being curious and learning my whole life, and now it's my job. So that means my job is fun. And that is it. So what do you think, guys? Does anyone have any questions?
Could you stop sharing it so we can see your face?
Oh, sure. Yes, Ashley, go ahead.
How much friends do you have in the laboratory?
Everybody here's my friend.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
so
and I'm friends with other scientists. I'm friends with a bunch of scientists on Twitter that I talk to, on Reddit. There's scientists all around the world that I can talk to about this stuff. Those are actually some of my favorite conversations, my talks with my scientist friends. How much, let me see this, another question in the chat box. How much school did you do to get here? Well, I'm still in school. So let's see, I finished high school, then I finished 4 years of college, and now I'm in my 4th year of graduate school. So that's like after you graduate college, you go to another type of college for it, right? So I'm still in that. And you know what? Probably when I finally graduate from here, I'm probably going to still be in school, and I'll probably be a professor one day teaching at school. I love school, so it's very okay.
We also have some questions that the kids came up with on Wednesday for you. So I'm just gonna share my screen really quick, and you can maybe just like answer a few of them from like each slide, because each of them came up with some of them.
Sure, that sounds great.
So here's some of Nicole's questions. So if you just wanted to like pick a couple that you wanted to answer, that maybe you
Okay.
haven't answered already in your presentation.
No problem. How long did I go to school? So I'm still in school, like I said. I'm 29 years old, still in school. What did you go to school for? So high school, I just, learned regular high school stuff, all kinds of different grades, different classes. And then in college, I studied the immune system, as I mentioned. I also, in college, I studied something called toxicology, which toxicology is a study of toxins, poisons. And you know what? It's kind of like microbiology in the sense that your immune system's involved and your microbiome causes kind of bad things sometimes. Toxins are just not alive, and anything can be toxic at a certain dose. That's the most important thing about toxicology. So even water, if you have too much water, that could be really bad for you, right? So anything can be considered in the world of toxicology. What bacteria have you seen? Ooh, I've seen a lot that I know the name of, and I've also probably seen a lot that I don't know the name of. As a scientist, some of my scientist friends study bacteria, and I get to see their research, and I get to see the type of bacteria that they study. And that being said, we only know a very, very small percentage of all the bacteria that are around us. Because in order to know what those bacteria are, we need to be able to study them in the lab, much like this place. And most bacteria, we cannot grow in the lab because we don't know how. Human cells are easy because we know what we need for food, which means we know what human cells need for food. But bacteria, some of them, if they live on our skin, okay, maybe they need some sweat and salt. They can grow off that. Some of them, if they live in our mouth, maybe some saliva would be good for them to grow. But there's so many other places that bacteria can live. Even inside volcanoes, there are bacteria. So there's a lot that that personally, there's so many bacteria that I haven't seen. What viruses have I seen? I've seen a lot of viruses using microscopes. None with my eyes because my eyes can't see that small. Same with bacteria. But viruses, I like viruses a lot. And there's something called super resolution microscopy. So this is just a regular microscope here. But these days, there's something called super resolution microscopes that can show you up close and personal what a virus looks like. And those are some cool pictures. You should look up, if you have a chance, super resolution microscopy. I'm going to just write that in the chat. Yeah, if you just like Google search that, you'll see a bunch of cool stuff. How long does he work? In one single day. Let's say I have a few experiments. It could be the whole day. It could be the whole day from when the sun goes up to way past when the sun goes down. Sometimes I don't have experiments going, or I'll finish an experiment, or I'll I won't have a lot going on and I'll just go home. I'll take that time. But for example, 2 days ago, I was sitting at the microscope until 12 midnight, and then I went home. A long day, but you know what? It's because I wanted to. No one makes me do it. It's fun. It's really interesting, and I get cool pictures. Have I seen coronavirus? I've seen pictures of it. I've seen pictures. Have you seen bacteria on a doorknob? If so, how did it look? I've seen pictures of that as well. And when you see it, it looks kind of icky, right? Because you get to see like all these little, it looks dirty. So I've seen that. And I'm sure you've all done experiments where you kind of like maybe touch a petri dish that has media for bacteria to grow, and then you could see the bacteria growing. Has anyone ever done that? You get to learn about the bacteria that's on your hand. Yeah, I've seen things like that.
We also used bread.
Or bread. Oh, what a perfect place for bacteria to grow, huh? So have you ever seen DNA break? I have seen it in pictures. Again, I've seen pictures of cartoons of it, but not with my own eyes, that's for sure. What happens when DNA breaks or rips? Well, good thing is your body has mechanisms that repair DNA. So most of the time, if your DNA breaks or tears or something, then your body has these little machines that fix it. When your body gets overcome, when those repair mechanisms get overcome, then something bad happens. Then you have kind of permanent breaks of the DNA. But the truth of it is this: your DNA is breaking constantly, all the time. But you don't know that's happening because your body fixes it. That's the same thing with your immune system. You kind of always have bugs coming in like on your body, but your immune system keeps you healthy, keeps you safe. So you don't even really have to worry about it. Your immune system does all the work for you.
All right. Well, I think that's about all the time we have today. But can everyone unmute themselves and say thank you so much for Dr. DJ coming and talking to us today?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You were a
so
wonderful
very
audience. It was so great to meet
Thank
you and to hear your ideas. And as we talked about, I hope you realize that what it means to be a scientist now, it's more than just being in a place like this. It's being curious, it's asking questions, it's wondering. So a lot of you are already on your way to being scientists just like this. So nice to meet you, and I wish you well in your studies. Work hard.
Thank you so much. And kids, make sure you stay on because we're going to do a Nearpod.
Cool.
Well done, my students.
Thanks, Dr. Cast. Okay, see you all. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye and thank you.
The rest of you have to stay. Don't forget.
All